Everyone. So, one of the big beauties of Austin Reaves is just his effectiveness in any lineup that you throw him out, right? You can play him with stars and he just excels. You could play him as the primary ball handler. You could play him off the ball. You could play him with, the bench unit. You could play him and just basically he's a jack of all trades. And it's a really great thing to have a player like that. On top of that, just his efficiency. I mean, the guy is incredibly efficient and was the best efficient shooter in the league last year, one of the most efficient players in the league overall, and he's doing the same thing with Team USA, right? And it's just this narrative of like, would he be able to continue it, and does he deserve and belong with Team USA, and is he just being on Team USA because he's a Laker and whatnot, right? We've dove into all of those talks and conversations, and he has more than proven that he is worthy and deserving of that Team USA roster spot. So much so, he has been the best statistical player for Team USA. He is the highest rating by far, right? Austin Reaves, 27.06 rating. And then Paolo Banchero has been second, but he's been limited. Like, if you put things in perspective and comparison. Now, look, this doesn't mean that Austin Reaves is the best player on Team USA. Anthony Edwards has shown clear and cut and just ran away with just being the best player on that team. But there is a real argument that Austin Reaves has been the most consistent and efficient player. He has been the most efficient player, and he's been the most consistent. The guy is just game in and game out, giving you 10 plus points a game, giving you, 5 plus assists per game, giving you a couple rebounds, playing really good defense, playmaking, playing off the ball, playing on the ball, shooting ridiculous from 2-point range, 3-point range. I mean, the guy is just absolute money. The guy's shooting over 50% since he's been with Team USA. He did this last season, right? He did this in the playoffs. And now he's doing it for Team USA. Like, at what point do we stop doubting Austin Reaves? At what point do we just say, okay, he's not overrated. He's not overhyped. He is the player that he is. I mean, he's doing this with a star-studded roster. Pretty much everybody on this list, outside of like a couple guys, like Josh Hart and Bobby Portis, Cameron Johnson, Walker Kessler. Outside of that, everyone else is a franchise guy. Paolo Banchero is Orlando's franchise guy. Tyrese Halliburton is Indiana's franchise guy. Jalen Brunson is the Knicks franchise guy, right? Like Jaren Jackson, him and Ja Morant are the Grizzlies, franchise guy. Mikal Bridges is right now the Nets franchise guy. Brandon Ingram, who has just really struggled, he is the Pelicans. Him and Zion are the franchise guys. Like, outside of that, all of these guys are basically number one options. Austin Reaves is the third, if not fourth option for the Lakers, and may end up being all-star level. I don't necessarily think he'll get into the all-star just because, you got such a guard-heavy Western Conference that it's tough. But every year there are those snubs. There are, those 5 to 6 players that absolutely deserved it and ended up getting snubbed. Could somebody, an injury or something like that, push Austin Reaves into an all-star? Absolutely. And that would be as like the third guy for the Lakers. Like, Austin Reaves is able to do that because of his efficiency. Austin Reaves has also been the guy that Steve Kerr, with a star-studded roster, again, this isn't the A team. This isn't like LeBron and KD and AD and all these guys. No, but it's still again, star-studded roster with Austin Reaves, who comes off the bench and is only averaging like 12 minutes a game and is still giving you basically a point a minute, right? Like, the guy is doing everything. And Steve Kerr has trusted him pretty much over everybody. Game in and game out, him and Tyrese Halliburton have been the two guys. And I mean, even Bill Simmons, who many of you I'm sure are familiar with, even pointed this out. And he even said on the Ringer that, Jalen Brunson, after the Knicks star struggled during Team USA's hard-fought win and the comeback over Germany, he said, Team USA's biggest issue for the actual tournament, excepting Halliburton and Reaves, are two of the best guys on the team. They're going to have to be out there in any big situation, even if feelings get hurt. And yes, this was before this was still the exhibition game. But guess what? Austin Reaves and Tyrese Halliburton have been the guys that Steve Kerr has confidently just confided in and game out. So Bill Simmons was spot on. And it was what you saw. These two guys have literally been, outside of Anthony Edwards, the best players on Team USA. They have. And I mean, again, the ratings, the efficiency, everything has shown that. And Austin Reaves is leading the team in all of it. Right? Like, you don't do that when you're just some scrub that just is there because you're a Laker. Again, and I've said this, and I completely understand some people's sentiment in this regard of like, if he wasn't a Laker, he wouldn't be as hyped as he is right now. I agree. Right? But let's not pretend like he hasn't lived up to the hype. He is continuously hyped up and, overrated in some people's eyes because he's lived up to that hype. If he was struggling like a Brandon Ingram has been, or doing, just been an average guy on the court for Team USA, the hype would probably die. But he continues game in and game out to be the guy. He just led the team in points and assists. Like, what more do you want from the guy? On a star-studded roster, this guy has excelled and stood out head and above everybody else outside of Anthony Edwards. Literally, Anthony Edwards has been the only other guy who has had as much, if not bigger of an impact than Austin Reaves. Every time Team USA struggles, Steve Kerr, if you actually watch the games, Steve Kerr immediately throws Austin Reaves in. And every single time, Austin Reaves makes a big play, a big impact, takes a big shot or whatever, and completely changes the tide. Did it against Germany, did it against Spain. He's done it in the last two actual games that matter, right? Like, the guy just, every game, he's making a huge play or a huge impact factor or whatever. And like I said, the last game, he led the team in scoring and assists. And he's doing that with different rules as the sixth man off the bench. Again, what more can this guy do to prove like this isn't a fluke? That this isn't some like, he rolled the eye, pulled the roll over everyone's eyes. Oh, like, I got you. Like, no, like, the dude is a basketball player. The guy is living up to the hype. That's why the hype train continues. Is it a little overblown because he's a Laker? Sure. If he wasn't on Detroit, if he was on Detroit or something like that, would he be as praised as he has been? Right? Because he's been by far the most praised and polarized guy on Team USA, even more than Anthony Edwards and everyone else, right? Like, every topic of conversation is about Austin Reaves and stuff like that. That's the Laker effect, right? But there's also been a lot of just natural publicity because he's been so good. Both can be true. You can have a guy that the media is just super fixated on because he's a Laker, and then he could be good enough to deserve that fixation, right? Like, so you can have both, and both can be true, and both can be a reality, and that's what we're seeing here. Both are true, and both are a reality. Austin Reaves, by the eye test, by the stats, by everything, every single metric, Austin Reaves has shown that he is him, that he is that guy. And yet people continuously, we're overhyping, we're overrating him. Like, this is a second-year player. He should only get better. This guy very likely is going to be a 25-5 guy at some point. I mean, that is literally Hall of Fame level numbers. Like, this guy, if he continues the trend, and again, he has to continue that. He has to be able to, year in and year out put this together, which I don't know why he wouldn't be able to. We have a large enough sample size now at this point to say, okay, before Team USA, you can go look. I have videos where I talked about, is Austin Reaves going to be able to keep this up? We've seen guys, like a Chandler Parsons or something like that, right? That just had a great year, a great stretch, a great playoff run, and were never able to continue that momentum. Got the bag and just disappeared, right? Like Chandler Parsons was like out of the league before his contract was up, right? After he got his big bag. And there was that question mark of, is Austin Reaves going to be able to continue where he left off? Or was it just, all of the stars lined up perfectly and he was able to capitalize, right? Credit him for capitalizing, but that doesn't mean that he's that guy. Well, now we've had, 8 games or whatever for Team USA, and he's on a roster that is full of star-studded players, and he's still doing exactly what he was doing for the Lakers. At some point, it's like, okay, this wasn't a fluke. This is who he is. And I think that there's enough evidence to show that this is who he is. He is that guy, right? The difference between a star and your average player in many cases are 2 things: opportunity and consistency. So far, Austin Reaves has shown the ability to have the consistency. It's, will he get the opportunity? With the Lakers, I do believe he will, right? And we'll see over the coming years, right? If he can kind of develop into that guy. I'm not saying this guy's going to be a top 5 player in the league. I'm not saying that this guy is going to be, the greatest player of all time or anything like. No, I'm not saying he's the second coming of Jordan or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that he can't be a very good player, a number 2 option, an all-star level player, maybe even a number 1 option on the right roster, the right team. That's not something that is that far-fetched. Is it that far-fetched to think that this guy can't be, a 25, 5, and 5 guy on 50, 40, 90, which would be literally Hall of Fame level numbers? And for those that are like, there's no way I don't see that, Austin Reaves basically did that in the Denver series and nearly the entirety of the playoffs. He was nearly a 50, 40, 90 guy. He averaged like 17, 4, and 4, or 17, 5, and 5, something like that. But in that Denver series, he averaged 21, 5, and 5 on 50, 40, 90. So to think that it's that far-fetched that this guy, if given the opportunity, can't be a 50, 40, 90 guy, or at least pretty close to it, which would still be historic level, and go give you 20 plus points, 5 plus assists, 5 plus rebounds, which again would be Hall of Fame level numbers, which means he would be that guy, which means he would be incredible. And look, 25 and 5 is not I've had people kind of try to push back on that and be like, you're talking because I said, like I mentioned, Hall of Fame level numbers. They're like, you're talking about some of the greatest players ever. Yes, but you got to put things in perspective, right? 25 and 5 is historic Hall of Fame level numbers, but there are more and more players as years go on that are becoming 25 and 5 guys. It's becoming a thing because players are more skilled, more defined. The rules are different. It's more of a scoring. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So to think that a guy in Austin Reaves that isn't capable, that has shown the ability and capability of scoring essentially at will, at ridiculously high efficiency. And again, we have very large sample sizes to prove this, right? We have teams that have gone after him and he's still been able to do it and figure it out, right? Again, I don't think right now, I think if it's him and if you remove Anthony Davis and LeBron James off of the Lakers and it's Austin Reaves and the rest of this roster and Austin Reaves is the number 1 guy, I don't think the Lakers are a contender. But I do think that they would be very good. I do think that they could still, fight for a play-in spot. With him, Rui, D'Lo, all these guys. I mean, they have enough scoring, enough size, enough defense, right? They'd need another center, definitely, because Jackson Hayes by himself. But, if it was him and whomever, right? Him and Brandon Ingram or something, right? And I really think that they'd be very good. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. How do you feel? What do you think? What are your thoughts on all this information? How high are you on Reeves? Do you think he's overrated, underrated, rated correctly? Again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.